eggs, please, jumbo and smart. Today, through the miracle of medical science, many infertile couples who want to have children are being helped. That's why the market for both egg and sperm donors is growing at an increasing rate. Most couples, whether they are fertile or not, have a strong need to have children, and many don't care if their first or second-born child is a boy or girl, has blue eyes or brown, so long as it's healthy. But there are some couples who want more than so long as it's healthy. They have a strong need to produce a child who has certain characteristics, particularly high intelligence. Consider the advertisement that was recently placed in several college newspapers. See Gina Colada, $50,000 offered to tall, smart egg donor, New York Times, March 3, 1999, PA 10, with the following headline, Egg donor needed, large financial incentive. According to a report published in the New York Times, the advertisement was placed in the newspapers of some of this country's most prestigious colleges. The term large financial incentive was a bit of an understatement. The infertile couple was offering $50,000 to an egg donor, but the donor must have certain characteristics. She must be intelligent and athletic. The advertisement stated that the donor must have a 1400 SAT score or higher and be at least 5'10", approximate measure of athletic ability. The assumption is that an egg from a tall person with a 1400 plus SAT score will produce a child who has high analytical intellect and will also be tall. Keep in mind that the infertile couple in this case is highly educated and want a child who can be highly educated as well. They are tall, so they want a child who is tall. Colada, PA 10. I read this information several times, and each time I couldn't help but feel that I was reading about some fellow who breeds hunting hounds. I have to assume that the infertile couple probably had good intentions in their quest for a match. They are apparently high on the analytical intelligence scale, so what's wrong with trying to find a donor who also possesses high analytical intelligence? And both are tall and athletic, so naturally they want to enhance the probability. But life can play many tricks on people. Just because mom and dad are high up on the intellect scale doesn't mean their offspring, Thad and Buffy, will also be intelligent, and it's possible that Thad and Buffy will have some undesirable traits. I recently read an Associated Press story with the headline National Merit Scholar. Near this subheading was a picture of the recipient, a tall, attractive young woman. Was she intelligent? Yes. Otherwise, how could she even be considered a candidate for a National Merit Scholarship? The article also stated that she was a college student, in need of funds so she could concentrate on her art. Martha Mendoza, college student held in robberies, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, January 28, 1999, PA 10. I suspect that the infertile couple would not purchase the eggs from this young scholar. She was not featured in news stories because of her performance on the SAT. Emma, 18, a National Merit Scholar, is accused of pointing a handgun while robbing a hair salon. Mendoza, PA 10. Intellect and integrity are not the same constructs, so if you had a choice, what would you do? You are a married couple in need of an egg. Would you take smart eggs from a donor who commits armed robberies? Or would you insist on eggs from a donor with high integrity? Personally, I would tone down the IQ requirements if I could enhance the probability of producing a child who is honest, well-adjusted, and personable. The experiences of the self-made millionaires surveyed support that decision if you want your child to achieve economic success. Being a genius is no guarantee that one will become financially independent. Birds of a feather. If you ever judge the quality of a person by the quality of his neighborhood, you're not alone. Some neighborhoods have much higher concentrations of college graduates than others, and some have much higher crime rates than others. As a general rule, in America, birds of a socio-economic feather do flock together. This is the basis of much of my sampling of affluent households. I oversample those neighborhoods in America with the highest concentrations of millionaires, which is the most efficient method of focusing on the millionaire population. In a nationwide sample, without selecting neighborhoods, one would expect that only 1 in 20 respondents would be in the millionaire category. But in this book, the sample was taken from neighborhoods that contained upwards of 80% millionaires. These affluent respondents are typically well educated and they hold positions that pay high salaries. Some would even say that, on average, they are smarter or more intelligent than people who live in other areas. Of course, as discussed throughout this book, smart has many definitions. If you define smart as having an above-average IQ or SAT score, then people who live in affluent neighborhoods generally are smarter than those living in, say, lower middle-class areas. But it would be wrong to conclude that all the smart people live in affluent neighborhoods, just as it would be wrong to conclude that all those who live in blue-collar neighborhoods have lower levels of intellect. There are several significant relationships between neighborhood type and the characteristics of the people who reside there, as demonstrated in the following case example. I received a letter from a stranger asking for my assistance. Where do you think this fellow lives? Dear Dr. Stanley, I have read your most recent works. I have an extremely high mathematical aptitude. I hold advanced degrees in advanced math from university. So far, you know this fellow can read. It's not a certainty, but you might play the odds and guess that he lives in a neighborhood with a higher than average concentration of middle-class, college-educated people. Then you note that this fellow is a math genius, and he holds advanced degrees from a prestigious university. He probably lives among other people with high IQs, SATs, GPAs, incomes, and net worths. Could it be that he lives in one of those same neighborhoods as my respondents, and that he is a millionaire with a prototypical home, valued at $1.40 million? Your assessment changes a bit after you read more of his letter. I'm currently in transition. Eventually, I want to pursue a different career path. You are well versed in the study of wealthy families. Thus, I have a request of you. I'm intensely interested in becoming a math tutor for the children of the wealthy. Can you supply me with the names and mailing addresses of millionaires in the following areas? Perhaps he's not a millionaire. Full-time math tutors usually don't become wealthy. Now you picture him as perhaps a very bright fellow with limited ambition who, at the very least, may live in a nice lower middle-class neighborhood. If that was your guess, you'll win no prize on this quiz show. Consider the rest of his story. I'm currently in prison. I am scheduled for release next September. Well, you did get part of the correct answer. The fellow lives in a neighborhood with a high concentration of people with similar characteristics. But most are not millionaires, nor are they mathematically inclined. They are all 100% convicted felons. This convict was extraordinarily arrogant. He thought that because he was brilliant in math, I would overlook the fact that he was judged by a jury to lack integrity. Imagine you are a wealthy person with children who need math tutoring. One day you get a letter postmarked, Jailbird University. It contains the please hire me note with the applicant's resume attached. Under employment objectives you read, to get out of prison and tutor rich kids for dollar compensation plus free room and board in a mansion setting. There is a simple message here. There are people like this convict who are gifted intellectually, but that doesn't mean they also have high integrity. The halo that surrounds smart people often blinds us. We automatically think they are better in all of life's key dimensions. In fact, some smart people are not people of high integrity. Your spouse. Lincoln said, referring to politicians, you can't fool all the people all the time, but in the business world it's difficult for those who lack integrity to fool even some of their customers some of the time. Quoting Mark 3:25, Lincoln also said that a house divided cannot stand, and that can also refer directly to a relationship with a spouse. Note that one of the success factors strongly correlated with integrity is having a supportive spouse. Nearly 1/2, 49%, of the millionaire respondents indicated that this element was very important in accounting for their economic Success. Most of the respondents believe that integrity begins at home. You cannot expect your spouse to be supportive if you lie and cheat. Your spouse and your children have many, many opportunities to observe your behavior. It's not enough to say you are honest or merely attend religious services each week. You have to be a role model of integrity for your spouse, your children, and all others. If you are, your spouse will probably support you through good times and bad, during thin years and plump years. A more detailed discussion of the role that spouses play in the affluent family is presented in Chapter 4, The Relationship Between Courage and Wealth. Also included in Chapter 4 is a profile of millionaires who have strong religious faith. For many millionaires, religious faith is also closely related to integrity, as shown in Table 2 to 4. In addition, the millionaire's choice of spouse is detailed in Chapter 6. It is important to note that having a supportive spouse is a strong correlate of most of the major factors that underlie economic success in the millionaire population. Creative intelligence. What if you are not an analytical genius? Your school counselors often reminded you that you're just average or somewhat above. Your SAT results indicated that you aren't likely to be accepted at a competitive college, and your B-level grades are in sync with your SAT scores. You are not intellectually gifted, but you have another gift. You are smart enough to know that it would be a bad idea to try to compete in the same vocational area with the whiz kids from your school, so you rule out becoming an attorney or physician. Then you search for a business opportunity that would provide significant profits and few competitors. You discover the ideal business opportunity. Ultimately, you just had an intuitive feeling about the type of intellect you possess. You have a lot of creative intelligence. People with creative intelligence who apply themselves are among the very most economically successful people in America. So what if they aren't high on the analytical intelligence scale? They are not normally encouraged to enter a rigorous graduate school program or competitive professional school, but they often are big winners in the economic arena. How is it possible? Millionaires who have high creative intelligence often make one very important career decision correctly. They select a vocation that provides them with enormous profits, and very often this same vocation is one they love. Remember, if you love what you are doing, your productivity will be high and your specific form of creative genius will emerge. Professor Robert J. Sternberg, one of America's leading authorities on human intelligence, notes that creative people tend to love their chosen vocations, and this is one of the main reasons they succeed in life. Creative intelligence is a major component of Sternberg's definition of successful intelligence. See Robert J. Sternberg, Successful Intelligence. New York, Simon & Schuster, 1996, pp. 251-52. Seeing opportunities and finding a profitable niche both contribute to loving one's career, because generally it is the millionaire himself who saw the opportunity or personally found the niche that excited him. His choice of career was not imposed on him by parents or significant others. In fact, there is a highly significant correlation between level of net worth and the importance rating of finding a profitable niche. Creative people know what to do when one door is locked. They try another way to succeed. They seem to know their strengths as well as their shortcomings. If they lack funds, they will probably select another vocation. Consider the example of Hazel Bishop. She couldn't go to medical school for economic reasons, so she took a job as a chemist and worked for a top dermatologist who studied cosmetic-related allergies. Table 2 to 5. Millionaire's success factors. Superior intellect versus creative intelligence. N equals 733. From this and related experiences, she invented the first kiss-proof lipstick in her kitchen. Eventually her brand captured 25% of the market. Her creativity overcame her economic adversity, and it's more than likely that she never would have become as economically successful as a dermatologist. There were many highly skilled dermatologists, but there was only one inventor of kiss-proof lipstick that stays on you. Not on him. Mary Tannen, Hazel Bishop, innovator who made lipstick kiss-proof. New York Times, December the 10th, 1998, PC 24. My databases are filled with responses from millionaires who started businesses that are very, very unique. Creative people come up with unique business ideas, and often these creative types are not loved by their teachers and professors. They are some of the same radicals who might have written in the margins of objective tests more than one answer possible, and then given a logical explanation. Many of these case studies are discussed in some detail in Chapter 5, Vocation. Vocation, vocation. Our economy is filled with successful entrepreneurs who were encouraged early in their lives to think differently. Creativity was nurtured. So when our young people are criticized for being outperformed on standardized tests by their counterparts in other countries, I recite the following quote. When the Education Minister of Singapore came here, the United States, people asked him, "What are you looking here for? Your kids score on top of all international standardized achievement tests." He said, "All that our kids can do is take tests." Ethan Bronner, "Freedom in math class may outweigh tests." New York Times, March 2, 1999, pp. A1, A4. Apparently, the Education Minister of Singapore understands something that our own educators do not. Creativity, the discovery and exploitation of unique opportunities, has a lot to do with our economic position in the world today. As a society, we need to nurture even more creativity in our young people. It's unfortunate that many educators focus only on the part of the brain that houses analytical intellect. What if they continue to tell kids who are not analytically inclined that creativity doesn't count in our economy? We are in big trouble. Tell even the most creative student over and over again, your test scores are inferior, therefore you're inferior, and the result is yet one more economic dropout. Instead, tell a youngster there are many ways to win. Tell him that creativity and even common sense, social skills, and integrity count in the economic arena. If we convey that message, we will have many more people becoming productive citizens. Testing has its place in society, but there should be more testing of the interests that young people have inside of them. Tell them this. If you want to be successful, select a vocation you love. It's amazing how well people do in life when their vocation is one that stimulates dedication and positive emotions. Unfortunately, most people who find a vocation they love were never directed to it by testing or through the academic environment. It's especially important to note that only 14% of the millionaires studied indicated finding the ideal vocation with standardized aptitude test results. Even fewer, 6%, found it through suggestions from their college placement office. An athlete's heart, a desire, careful selection, and a strong affection for a vocation. Enough to compensate for lack of high analytical intellect? Some years ago, one of my undergraduate advisors wanted to go to graduate school and earn an MBA. He'd spent his first 2 years in college generating a lot of CS, and then later as a junior and senior he started doing work. He took the GMAT, Graduate Management Aptitude Test, which was a requirement for admission to the school he was applying to. From the look on his face the morning he consulted me, I could tell he was unhappy with his performance. The graduate school of business he was interested in was not an academic powerhouse, with a GMAT of 450 as the lower minimum for acceptance. But my advisee score was somewhere in the 300s. He thought that a personal interview with some key people at the business school would offset his low score on the GMAT, but he was told, "You are not graduate school material." What do you tell a young student who has just had his dream of attending graduate school shattered? I told him there were many MBA programs. At the time, some night and part-time programs were really interested in building their student bases, and some did not even require the GMAT. My young advisee soon recovered from the hurt of being told that he wasn't graduate school material, and I was not surprised. This fellow was a gifted athlete, and he had demonstrated a great deal of discipline and determination in sports. He applied those same qualities to finding a school that would accept him, and he succeeded. While in the program, he studied day and night. Early in his graduate studies, one of his professors became his mentor. The professor was impressed with his study habits and creativity, so much so that he hired him as his research assistant. He proved to be a very valuable resource for the professor, and he did well in his coursework. The professor, who had a fine reputation as a researcher and had published many papers, encouraged his assistant to pursue a PhD in business. The professor wrote to several of his many contacts in a variety of PhD programs, endorsing his research assistant's application for admission to their programs. He made it clear that the applicant would never score big on the GMAT, but he would work hard and be a major asset to anyone for whom he did research. The student was eventually accepted to a quality PhD program and worked closely with a distinguished professor. During this time he began writing articles, and to this day he is still publishing papers in top journals. Note that the editorial review boards of these journals never ask for an author's GMAT scores. They don't care that this fellow was 25 before he received his undergraduate degree. They look for breakthroughs, new ideas, unique findings. I've followed this remarkable young man's achievements over the years. How is it that today he holds a distinguished chair as a research professor? What happened to so many of the other PhD candidates who were in graduate school at the same time that he was a student? Most are professors today. Most scored big on the GMAT and GRE. But very, very few have achieved what this former advisee has accomplished. I am particularly interested in the rejection he received in his early college years. He was told by his first-choice college that he was not of graduate school caliber. Yet there were several years when this fellow outpublished every single one of the faculty members at that college.